I specifically don't put in, stuff where it's very aggressive. I put Rage Against the Machine on, but I wouldn't put much more angry than that. Because not everybody wants to hear that much swearing.
No. And you probably don't want to hear Another One Bites the Dust or any of these death songs. But, there's a whole list of hospital radio songs that must be played.
There is a list of... Although I think I do have Another One Bites the Dust on my playlist.
No, I'm just saying that every so often it comes out, like the top 10 songs that hospital radio isn't allowed to play. That's always on the list.
Yeah, but the nurses, most of them quite like it, and those that don't just kind of seem to roll with it.
I think most people who are doing their jobs can block these things out. It's only the slightly... are they dyspraxic, or are they there's another type of person, not dyspraxic. Some people can't block out music. They get mental.
Well, most of the nurses can block it out.
No, I'm saying no, I can't say normal. Most average people can block out music. There's a type of person. It's not. What's the all these modern things? They struggle. They can't cope.
Autistic spectrum disorder?
They're definitely on the spectrum, but they're the very minor end of it. Oh, what's it called?
Asperger's syndrome?
No, it's less serious than that. They probably can't cope either. But I'm just saying that people who are more... Oh, it doesn't matter. I'll write it anyway.
Right. You'll suddenly think of it in the middle of the night tonight.
I will. I know exactly what I mean. It's a bunch of initials. But what I mean is I know people who can't cope when they come and visit me. Because I always have a radio on in one room, music on in another room, and I'll stop chatting away, and then eventually they just say, I cannot, they just stop, they just freeze, they say, I can't hear you. Well, why not? And it's because of that. And but the two people I'm talking about, they both have the same minor condition, which I can't remember.
They'll come back to you.
Yeah, will. But I wouldn't let them in your theatre, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so that's a job for them not to take. So that's the music is always on. It's always on until the patient's starting to be woken up. Because we don't want the patients don't want to hear that when they're waking up.
Do they don't wake up in theatre. They get pushed out into a ward, don't they? Or?
No, they get woken up in the operating theatre.
Okay, so with stripped head, we know what's in the tray. You've got the music on. You start the procedure, and that might take. What's the shortest time a procedure would take?
The quickest operation is probably something called an intracranial pressure monitor, which is usually done by the registrars, and that could probably take about 20 minutes.
Okay. And the longest could be 6 or 7 hours or something.
Oh yeah, it could be all day. Yeah.
Okay, and so, but you're still there. What do you do for toilet breaks? Just out of interest.
Don't tend to have them.
Even on a whole day.
Yeah.
So that's just adrenaline, do you think, just keeping you going?
Yeah, because at the end of the operation, man, I need to wee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't drink.
Yeah, I don't drink that much we don't drink at all when we're operating.
But you've had 2 coffees. We've established this.
In the morning, yeah, and I've usually got rid of them. I mean, with my age, my prostate's getting it out, pretty churning that stuff out. But yeah, don't tend to have breaks. Jeff the ghostwriter. Jeff the ghostwriter. Sorry, Shalandra's just come beginning into basically who the hell are you chatting to for so long? He's noting down all of the ridiculousness of our lives.
I'm your therapist.
Yeah. Free therapy. So we don't tend to stop to go and pee. I mean, you always make sure you pee before you go in. But you don't tend to stop and pee during the operation, no.
Okay. So it really can be an entire day, though.
Yeah, you don't tend to think about it until the operation is done. I think it's like so many things, isn't it? When you're not concentrating, and then it's only afterwards you go, oh, I'm really thirsty, and I'm really hungry, and I really need a wee. But you haven't felt any of those during the operation at all.
I get that you would be completely entranced by what you're doing because it's you're the sharp end. But do the support staff around you do they not flag?
Yeah, the nurses go up the tea and breaks. and lunch, and they switch over after 8 hours.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Break. Yeah, everyone else will stop for a break.
Yeah.
But that's, anaesthetists have to stop for a break because they're looking at the issue with being an anaesthetist is you're looking at essentially a static picture, and then suddenly something will change. And so you need to be alert enough to not switch off when you're looking at a static heart rate that's going up and down. It's very easy to clock off.
That's exactly the sort of thing that would send you to sleep, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's like, for them, it's like drive. I always, the analogy, the difference is that they're like somebody driving down a straight motorway.
Yeah.
Late at night when there's no one else.
Yeah.
So easy, isn't it, to fall asleep there?
Totally. And you're doing the Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah. So it's not that ours is more difficult or easier than theirs. It's a totally different risk.
No, they're going faster along that road, but you're doing more curves.
Yes, and they have to pick it up while we're operating. Sometimes, obviously, there'll be complications like a big bleed or something, and then everyone, then the balloon goes up and everyone starts running about. But there's also the heart rate change, the blood pressure change that doesn't correspond to any physical change during the operation. So you may just be picking at something, and your anaesthetist's job is to pick that up and go, what have you just done? Because the heart rate has just changed, or the blood pressure's just gone down. Stop what you're doing. But that needs them to be right on it and to be right on you as soon as you do something.
Can you give me an example of when they have stepped in response to something you've done?
Yeah. There's a lot of those. So when we're doing posterior fossa tumours at the back of the brain that are growing into the brain stem, the bit of the brain that does heart rate, blood pressure, consciousness, all these very important areas, we do not want to damage those at all. So
why would you would be there to cut out a tumour, would you?
Yeah. We're there to get in to try and get the tumour out. But everything we do in that area is highly sensitive. So as soon as there's a problem which leads to early damage / intervention into it, they need to say to us, he's getting a change on his heart rate, or whatever you're doing, you need to stop. And that is what secures us from going too far into the brainstem. So those are areas where we need our anaesthetists to be right on it.
So what would, if you ignored them, what would happen? Yeah. Or do they just make the adjustments? No. So they can adjust and they can give medicines to bring them back to normal. But what it tells us is you need to stop what you're doing because you're going into a dodgy bit here. First of all, if you carry on, you might cause a cardiac arrest or damage breathing centres that are going to leave this child permanently damaged. And the second thing that they do is they say, okay, wait, and then we wait and see if it comes back to normal, and then we assess where we are with our operation, and we say, listen, you know what, I need to go back in here. This bit has to be done. Okay. I'll give them some atropine just to prevent their heart slowing down too much. So they'll then get ready if there's something that we have to do that's, if you like, non-negotiable. So have you ever fallen out with, well, not fallen out, but argue, saying I need to do this, and they say you need to stop? Does it get to that stage?
No, because if we don't stop when they tell us, the patient could arrest on the table.
Okay, so the next step from that is, okay, what can you do to get them ready for me to continue?
Yeah. But they have the final arbiters.
So okay.
They are the absolute final decision about what we can do.
Okay.
If they say no, you can't do that anymore, we would always stop.
Speaking of which, I know it is now 5 o'clock, and you do have child commitments, but
I do in a wee while.
Okay, no, just checking because I have a clock in front of me, it's fine.
Should we do... well, Slender's walked in about 5 times now, isn't he?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm saying, it's up to you. You said that you could only do till 5. I was just reminding.
Yeah.